Benzie, I'll start with you. On this point specifically, Corey Teneycke, obviously a big part of this story, the comments he said on the podcast, on this show throughout. What do you make of the sort of back and forth between these two camps, and what impact do you think it ultimately had, if any?
I think it was debilitating for sure, but I don't think it was necessarily Mr. Ford's fault. I mean, remember, Pierre Poilievre had been the leader for 2.5 years before he picked up the phone to call Doug Ford, the most powerful Conservative politician in Canada, and that was on March 17th that they first spoke. So basically a week before Mr. Carney triggered the election, Mr. Poilievre felt he had to reach out. And then Mr. Poilievre mischaracterized the call when we reported that it was basically a cry for help, which it was. He was like saying, oh no, it was just a friendly call, and like I often talk to premiers. So he was wrong then. And anyway, it's fine. I'm not bitter that he was disputing my story, but I was right and he was wrong. But just like Lisa, no. But I think that it is a problem for that party. They need to make peace. The Progressive Conservatives in Ontario are a very important part of that coalition, and I don't really understand why the federal Conservatives feel they can get around them. They didn't want, they did a lot of, there were a lot of shenanigans between the two parties. And then Jamil Jivani's comments last night to CBC about Mr. Ford, and he saying that he sabotaged the election and that he was carrying water for the Liberals and he was too busy having lattes with Mark Carney and Chrystia Freeland. That's really quite something. Now, Ford, to his credit, kept the temperature low today. I thought he might bust a gasket. Because it's no secret, Mr. Ford wanted Mr. Carney to win the election. They kept in constant contact throughout the campaign. Mr. Carney came to visit Mr. Ford in Etobicoke before the election, and they sat and posed for pictures while having green tea at Wally's Grill in Rexdale. I mean, you know, it was obvious, even though Ford said he was being agnostic, that he wasn't. He wanted the Liberals to win, and it's probably because it's good politically for him if the Liberals do win.
Well, I thought also Corey made a good point. I'm wondering what you think about this, Tom, that, you know, there are sort of different versions of the Conservative Party in different parts of the country. And in particular, if you look at Conservatives in Alberta and Saskatchewan, they wouldn't necessarily align with the kind of principles that Premier Ford puts forward. That doesn't necessarily make it right or wrong, but it's difficult to bridge the gap. And Pierre Poilievre isn't the only Conservative leader that has been sort of greeted with that challenge.
Yeah, but the bull in the china shop approach, we are told, of Jenny Byrne, for example, with regard to Tim Houston and his folks in Nova Scotia, leaves bad memories. She is reported to have basically said, well, you know, they won't forget the behavior of the Houston government with them. So this is the old battle, you know, two different parties in the bosom of a single group, which is, of course, the Progressive Conservatives, represented by people like Tim Houston and Doug Ford, and the hard-bitten Conservatives of Pierre Poilievre. And just so nobody thinks that it's only the Conservatives that are having this sort of fight, soul-searching, I guess would be a nicer way to say it. Today, the head of the Parti Quebecois, the Quebec branch of the separatists, did a full-throated attack on Yves-François Blanchet for his feeble campaign, where he did not talk enough about separation. There you go.
Well, I'm glad you brought up Mr. Blanchet, because I did want to circle back, Lisa, to the comment he made about a truce with Mark Carney, the degree to which he is saying he's going to cooperate, and the things that he wanted Mark Carney to stay away from, as you know, characterizing essentially as agitators with Quebec, and he said oil. I bring that up not just in the sort of relationship with Quebec, but comments last night from Mark Carney, from Prime Minister Carney, about Alberta and Saskatchewan, the representation of the Conservative vote there, reaching out, you know, promises made during the campaign about building out the capacity to export natural resources. Like, all of that will come to a head very quickly, it feels.
Well, it's not a healthy thing to have the leader of the Bloc trying to tell another province what it is that is going to be spoken about with the Prime Minister. I mean, that's beyond the pale. That's pretty much swinging for the fences. The election is over. He doesn't need to impress people anymore. He's got the seats that he has. And now it's just figuring out whether or not he's going to be a dance partner for the Liberals. But if the Liberals pick him now, and after what he said about oil, I mean, I think the Conservatives have a valid gripe because they're going to be partnering up with a party that has clearly said that one of the offensive things to them is oil in this country. And we heard a lot in this election about the importance of pipelines, the importance of getting our natural resources to Tidewater. So I see Tom is shaking his head. I don't know if he's agreeing or disagreeing with me, but we'll see.
You go ahead, Tom, and then I'll get Brian in.
I don't think there's any risk whatsoever that Mr. Carney is going to partner up with the Bloc Quebecois. I mean, the seats even finished of the NDP are more than enough, and it would be absolutely toxic for the very reason that Lisa is giving.
Yeah.
So let me ask you then, Brian, from a sort of broader perspective about how this might work. 169 is where we ended up today. That is just 3 seats short of a majority. Tom is right. You know, Prime Minister Carney can peel from the NDP very quickly. He can peel from the Bloc, or if it's about pipelines, maybe even the Conservatives. How stable a minority do you think this will be?
I think it'll be stable for a while, only because my sense would be that Canadians are going to feel like very clear this is a mandate. It's a minority mandate, yes, but it's a mandate. And if any party were to toy with the idea of not allowing the Liberals to govern, or even if everything kind of goes sideways, basically throw things into an election again, I don't think Canadians would react very well to that at all. And I think the term balance of power is an interesting one, because I'm not sure it's the right one, only because the NDP MP was talking about balance of power. They don't have the balance of power in the sense that they can decide who has power. They can decide if they want to support the Liberals or not. They can't go make the Tories be able to form government. Neither can the Bloc. They would need both parties. So to your question, that means that the Liberals are able to kind of come in and say, and to Tom's point, basically not go into any type of agreement with either one, frankly, at least for a little while. They could maybe explore that with the NDP, but they don't necessarily have to, and they can kind of play their cards and say, look, are you really going to bring down a government that has 169 seats, that nobody wants an election, clearly, and they'll probably argue the other parties have been in disarray, the leader doesn't even have a seat, all that kind of stuff, or whatever the new leader or leadership race, they can go vote by vote. Right? They can go vote by vote, and they can see who goes with them between case by case, and that's most likely what they'll do for the next little while, if I were to guess.
Yeah, we'll know fairly soon. Parliament's supposed to come back in a month. We'll see, maybe earlier. Thanks, everyone. Thanks so much to our front bench, Brian Glant, Lisa Raitt, Tom Mulcair, and Rob Benzie.